Salam. How we can deal with files in Java. In this basic program, you can see that it will be an input and output from the user, and which is going to ask the user about the first name, the age, GPA, and gender. To implement this, creating the scanner using the scanner class to create a scanner object, which is going to help us to open the port for an input, and then we implement that our input is going to be from the console. Then we will start to ask about the first name, the age, the GPA, and the gender. And then the output is going to be provided to the user. So whenever we run this program, of course, we have to meet the type that we read. So whenever we are reading the name, we are expecting to get the name as a string. And of course, a string can accept any like characters, numbers, uppercase, lowercase, any language available, also for the special characters. However, for the age, it can accept only the integer format. The GPA can accept the double, which is the number entered can be in the integer format, and then we'll add 0.0, or it can be accepted as a floating point. Whenever we come to the gender, which is going to be as a character, whatever the user will enter, only the first character will be considered as the gender. Then, of course, it's going to be implemented. So if I try to say that the name is Sam, but when I come to the age, I say that the age is ABC. So you can see that I will have a problem because there is an input mismatch exception, and this has happened during the running. So actually, this is a running exception or a runtime error which is going to happen. So now, if I get this exception, how we can override that? So to override that, we can not use a simple if statement. We can say use what we call it try and catch exception. And we can see that this exception is automatically generated. Some of them is not automatically generated. It have to be implemented within our program. So now if I say try and catch, and within this catch, I implement the input mismatch exception, which is we face, and we say E. And then if I say print, and I print the E, which is I'm printing the object of mismatch. Then in the import, to make sure that we import the same exception for then the util. And then since now we have two classes from util, simply we can say that util.style, which is implementing all the classes, including the input mismatch exception and including the scanner. Now whenever we hit run, we'll see that it will ask about the first name. So if I say that the name is Sam, and when we come to the age, if I say ABC, instead of the exception is going to be thrown without going to be handled, we handle it by just to print the exception. And if I, instead of using E, I can use my own customized message, like to say error in entry. And now if I hit run, we can say that again the name is Sam. However, if it's ABC for the age, now it's going to see that my own message is going to be done. Later on, whenever you learn about the for loops, we can implement only this part to be within the exception. It's not a must that I can put all the class as a catch. In here, I can expect to have more than one exception. So for example, about the integer, later on when we deal with some data structure, we can have a problem with the indices. Maybe this index is out of bound and so on. So this can be multiple exception can be done. So if I would like to handle all kind of exception, I can say that exception alone, and then I don't need to import the input mismatch exception because this is actually would be the bigger class which is contain all the type of exception if I would like to implement something like that, and it's going to be working exactly the same. The idea of learning about this, because whenever we are dealing with reading and writing from the file, we have to deal with a very important exception, which is called file not found exception. So in case the file is not available, I have to implement that. With the file not found exception, we have two problems. The first problem is we have to make sure that we import the file, we have to implement the exception, we have to throw that kind of exception, and so on. So whenever I'm talking, for example, without handling any kind of exception, so first, let's see together how we can change now this particular program from reading from the user to make it reading from the file. So now if I say right here instead, now since it's reading from the file, scanner isn't important, but the system.in is not really my target to read. The target now to read is from the file, and to handle that we can use the new file reader, which is going to implement us to read from the file. Of course, here I have to specify the file. Either I can put the full path of the file, or I can put only the file itself if the Java, my main Java program, and the file within the same directory. So now here if I say the file name is input.txt. Now this is exactly now will open the port for the scanner to implement reading from the file. And here I have two important restrictions. First of all, I have to handle the exception, either through the try and catch, or I can say right here, throws file not found exception. And then I can handle all the type of exception of type find not found exception. Now, if I would like to make it wide and open, I can say just throw an exception. Why I have to do this whenever we deal with the file? Because file exception is not going to be implemented automatically. I have to import them. I have to throw them within my program, either through using through exception, or again by I can use the try and catch. And with the try, I say the catch is going to be by using either the find not found exception or by calling the exception. So now if I handle something like this and I say here I need to have the exception, now there is no need to throw it because the try and catch will handle it. And now here I can say print line, and I would say the file not found. It's a good idea to test it because now the file is really not found. So now if I hit run, you can see that whenever it will try to do that, now find not found exception, of course, need an import for a new library, which is import java.io, which is responsible to read and write to a file. Now if I hit run, whenever it's going to start running, this is actually will start to read it from the file. So now if I hit run, you will see right here, it's going to tell me that find not found, which is exactly the message which is I created. This is going to be quite professional whenever we have this kind of a problem, so we can handle the exception whenever we have it. So let's stuck with the easy way, which is going to say throws file or throws an exception. And now we don't need try and catch for that. I'm just enable throwing an exception by this. So I'm agreed to have this whenever I have the problem, to have this message which is going to be right here, as you can see right here, which is find not found exception. Now, so if the file creating this file is a must, okay, and whenever I create this file, so I have to make sure that it's exactly the same spelling, exactly the same case, and also with the extension. So now whenever I create the file, you can see that I have now the file. Now whenever I hit run, the problem now is not the file. The problem now, it will try to read something, which is the name, but this name is no such element exception, which is the name, the thing which is I'm trying to read from the file is not really exist. Now, how I'm gonna read from the file? What exactly I should put in the file? I have to put it exactly in same sequence, which is the name, the age, GPA, and gender. So now whenever I go to here, if I say the name is now Sam, and the age is 25, and GPA is 3.5, and the gender is male. Now you can see that whenever I hit run, there is no problem with reading the file. It's reading from the file perfectly. But now I don't need to ask the user about anything. So simply, I will say that I don't need this anymore. Why we need to ask the user, since we are actually reading from the file. So I'm reading the name, GPA, age, and then GPA, and then gender. And you can see that it's worked perfectly to read from the file. Okay. Now, of course, we can see here, what if I have more than one detail? So I have this one, and maybe I will have again ream, and ream is let's say 21, and 3.5 again for the GPA, and female. So I'm expecting to read the first one, then I'm expecting to read a second one. Whenever I'm doing something like this, simply I will say while this read.n has something next to read, what exactly I will do? I will do the following. So it will read the first one, print the details, we'll check the second. Has next it working like what? I will put the cursor right here. Does it have, whenever I have something next? Yes. So it will read 1, 2, 3, 4. Now the cursor is here. Do I have something next? Yes. And so I'm reading 1, 2, 3, 4. So again, what will happen? The cursor is here. I'm reading I'm checking. Do I have something next? The answer is yes. So I'm gonna read Sam, and then 25, and then 3.5, and then M as this, and then it will gonna print it for the user. Then it will check, do I have something next? The answer is yes. So I'm reading 1, 2, 3, 4, provided to the user. So now whenever I hit run, you can see that this details, I have it once. This is the details of Sam. This is the details of me. And if I have more and more elements, of course, it's going to be implemented perfectly. So if I repeat, for example, this one just for testing, like this. So now you can see that it's going to be provided 3 times, which is the details for Sam, ream, and also Sam once again. Okay. Now, this is about reading from the user, and it's reading from the file, and it's working perfectly. As a matter of efficiency, it's a good idea whenever we finish from reading and finish using the scanner for reading, we can say right here for the readIn. Thank you very much. So now you can do close to close the file. Now, because it's more efficient, it's not a must, it's optional, better, okay, advisable, but it's optional because our program works perfectly. But why it's good to do something like this? Because it's improved the efficiency. Whenever we have the file, this file will be available in the RAM. So whenever we will try to read, we keep the RAM opening. After a matter of course of time, it's going to be closing by itself to free the RAM. The operating system will take care about it. But whenever we say that read line now.close, this is exactly will give us the chance to close the file, and it's not available in the RAM anymore. Now we read from the file. What if I would like this output not to be in for the user? The other package, which is going to be very similar to scanner, which is called the print writer. In the print writer, let me remove the while so we can focus only about one single person. And here I will say print writer. which is actually again a class, which is going to help me to write an output. I can call it again whatever I like. It's a new print writer. Once again, this is a print writer. Whenever I need it, I need two things. The exception. And now I can say right here, new, since it's a print writer, which is similar to the file reader we need it within the scanner because the scanner is the only one which is open the port for reading. Print writer, I don't need to open any other ports. I can print write to a file right away. So now whenever I say print writer, and then I can implement here whatever I need. So I'll say it's going to be out.txt. Now the question is it a must to create a file? The idea here now, you can see now I have two files, which is the Java file, the input.txt. Now, whenever I hit run, you can see that Java will go ahead and create for me the file, even if it does not exist. So if I delete it again, and I will hit the run, you can see that it will create automatically the file. Now, we need to do something now, which is we need to enable writing to that file. So here, System.out is the one which is responsible to write for the user. Now I'm going to replace it with the my file output object, which is called the print writer object. Okay. Now, whenever I hit now run, you can see that there is no error, nothing here, but also still nothing inside the file. So in here we say that this one is an optional to create a file, but closing the file reader, which is called the print write, write out, which is going to be, we need actually to close it. We cannot read what exactly the content of the file unless we will close that particular file. So now we can say that since I close it, so this is now a must. So creating the file for reading is a must, but creating a file for output is actually an option. Closing the reading is more efficient and optional. However, it's a must to have and write the file. Now, if I hit run again, you can see right here, there is no errors. And whenever I go to the output, I have it now within the file. So this is exactly what summarized totally how exactly we deal with the files in reading and writing to the user. In more practice, of course, and to have more exercises, this is what give you the chance to understand it more. Thank you very much for listening.